Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm your girl, Molinda Jae, and I'm here to discuss the information or the incidents that have happened in regards to the Ohio derailment situation. So I had looked on Twitter just to get some. Well, I was looking for something else, but from what I've gathered here, from what someone had posted in regards to these derailments that are happening, it's this is coming from natural underscore May 1 of 1, and she posted, so let's get this straight. Between East Palestine, Ohio, Splendora, Texas, Phoenix, Arizona, Toledo, Oregon, Kissimmee, Florida, massive amounts of toxic, cancerous, and poisonous chemicals have been released into the air, ground, and soil in the past 2 weeks. Okay, so with that being said, let's go ahead and get into this article, because this is very concerning. Okay, so first I'm reading from CBS News, and this is a timeline of the toxic chemical train derailment in Ohio. I wanted to get like a good article that breaks down the timeline of it so we can all get a better understanding of this, especially for the ones who do not watch television. Okay, so let's go ahead and get into it. This was posted as of the 14th of this month. All right, so Ohio Governor DeWine Tuesday, or DeWine Tuesday, called for a congressional investigation following the February 3rd train derailment near East Palestine, Ohio, in which 38 rail cars derailed, including 11 which contained hazardous materials. The derailment forced hundreds of nearby residents to evacuate for several days. The National Transportation Safety Board said Tuesday that along with the 38 rail cars that derailed, another 12 cars were damaged by a fire. At a news conference Tuesday, DeWine told reporters he was informed that the train prior to its derailment had not been considered a high hazardous material train, so the state was not notified that it was passing through. Also, frankly, if this is true, this is absurd, and we need to look at this. DeWine said Congress needs to take a look at how these things are handled. We should know when we have trains carrying hazardous materials that are going through the state of Ohio. Okay. Also, DeWine addressed concerns about the harmful chemicals remaining in the air and said that following controlled release of chemicals, members of the Ohio National Guard were sent to the area in protective suits to measure the air, and no one's allowed back into the air until it was deemed safe. In fact, the monitoring showed that the air was basically what it was prior to the actual train crash, said. Below is a timeline of events following the train derailment. So as of February 3rd, this is when the train derailment happened. About 50 cars derailed in East Palestine as a train was carrying a variety of freight under Madison, Illinois to Conway, Pennsylvania. Rail operator Norfolk Southern said no injuries were reported. First responders found evidence of one of the train cars released vinyl chloride. NTSB member Michael, I think that's National Transportation member Michael Graham, said at a press conference vinyl chloride is used to make polyvinyl chloride, hard plastic resin used in a variety of plastic products, including pipes, wires, and packaging materials. And this photo was taken with a drone that shows portions of the Norfolk and Southern freight train that derailed Friday night in East Palestine, Ohio. where it happened midday Saturday, February 4th. And it was still on fire midday. Okay. Also, on the 5th of February, remaining residents ordered to evacuate. One day after officials issued evacuation orders to hundreds of residents near the Ohio-Pennsylvania state line, they urgently warned any residents who had declined to leave to evacuate immediately. Okay, let me finish this sentence first. Saying a rail car was at risk of a potential explosion that could launch, a dangerous shrapnel as far as a mile. You need to leave. You just need to leave. This is a matter of life and the afterlife, okay? DeWine told residents. Officials said residents needed to evacuate so crews could release chemicals from some of the derailed cars for a controlled burn. Okay. At this point, everybody, all citizens, the incidents that are happening now, whether it's natural disasters or incidents like this happening, when people ask you to go, when city officials or any type of official, government official, especially an agency official, ask you to leave because it's literally your life or DEATH happening, you need to leave. It is not like how it used to be in the 50s and the 60s and the rest past that. It is nothing compared to what is happening now than what it used to have back then. Okay, especially how people are having a lot more health issues this time around than it was back then. It was a slow process when people got, from my understanding, it was a little bit slower process of getting sick compared to now. It's like immediately it's going to take you out. And with these particular chemicals, you need to leave immediately. Leave everything. It is nothing. Things can be replaced. Yes, it's going to take time and is going to take a long time to return back to normalcy. But when it comes to your life, it's either you or that chemical. And more likely that chemical is going to outlive you first. All right. So that's just a rule of thumb, whether it's with dealing with hazardous chemicals or natural disasters. When it's time to leave, it's time to leave. It is nothing compared to how it was before when you're able to ride things out. Okay. Next, February 6th, controlled release of the rail cars chemicals. Crews released toxic chemicals into the air from the 5 derailed tanker cars that were in danger of exploding. Vinyl chloride was slowly released from 5 rail cars into a trough that was then ignited, creating a large plume above the village of East Palestine. Officials said after the controlled release, crews would begin the wrecking process, in which the cars are moved off the tracks and relocated to a safe area where they will be looked at by the National Transportation Safety Board officials. Officials said that although it was the last option, the denotation went perfect. And as you can see, this is the image of the control release of material that happened in the east side of Palestine. Okay. February 8th, evacuation order lifted. The residents were told they could return to their home about 5 days after the incident. And I'm gonna tell you right now, you should never went back to the incident, even if they told you that you're okay to go back there. I wouldn't have went back there. That's just my opinion, because those chemicals are harsh. Okay. East Palestine Fire Chief Keith Drupik said the air and the water samples determined that the evacuation area, which covered about 1 mile radius, was safe for residents to return. I'm gonna keep going. The evacuation order has been lifted. If you were asked to evacuate your residence due to the incident in East Palestine, you are permitted to return back home or return home. Please return in safe and orderly manner. Beaver County Emergency Services, we tweeted. Y'all should have been provided PPE too, because as of February 13th, the video of the train prior to derailment shows sparks and flames. A video that captured footage of the train about 20 miles before it reached the site where derailed raised question about when the crew knew there was a problem, CBS Pittsburgh reported. The video obtained by Pittsburgh Post-Gazette was taken by a security camera at an equipment plant in Salem, Ohio. What appeared to be sparks and flames can be seen in the video under one of the train's cars as it passed the plant. The National Transportation Safety Board referenced the video at news conference last week. We have obtained 2 videos which show preliminary indications of mechanical issues on one of the rail car axles. Michael Graham, a member of the National Transportation Safety Board, said. Okay, so that's the end of that article. That was a timeline from when it happened, the 3rd to the 13th. Okay, all right, so let me go to another article. Okay, let me see. No, that's not it. This Yahoo article, we're gonna take a look at that, because as of today, the Ohio train derailment is it's a lawsuit that has been filed saying that Norfolk's cleanup efforts made it worse as locals demand answers. So it says here within this article, a lawsuit filed by residents in East Palestine alleges that the efforts to clean up and mitigate the calamity after the train carrying toxic substance derailed nearly 2 weeks ago have instead worsened the situation. So after the controlled release of the toxins to prevent the car from exploding, causing more fumes and shrapnel going everywhere as far as the mouth. And then now that the evacuation has been lifted to where they can return. So that was as of the 13th. So fast forward to today, where a lawsuit is going to go live, basically, in regards to this efforts to clean up has worsened since they have been given the clearance to return back home. So it further says the residents have demanded punitive damages and medical monitoring. The case filed by law firm Morgan & Morgan alleges authorities purportedly blew holes in the car's container of vinyl chlorine, dumping 1.1 million pounds of vinyl chloride into the area. The Norfolk freight train carrying 20 cars of hazardous materials derailed near the state border with Pennsylvania on the 3rd of February, sparking concerns of vast environmental damage and health issues for the residents. Officials had the black clouds billowing into the air when they did the control release of the substance. I'm not sure the Norfolk Southern could have come up with a worse plan to address this disaster, said attorney John Morgan. Residents exposed to the vinyl chlorine may have already been undergoing DNA mutations that could linger for years or even decades before manifesting as terrible and dangerous cancers. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine has insisted there is no lingering danger to residents of East Palestine, adding that tests on the air and water around the site show no cause or concern. Okay, have y'all been doing those testing for air and water? Have y'all been doing that? on a daily basis or an hourly basis or every 4 hours, every 6 hours, because things change as well as the weather's change, because that also affects how the odor can linger in the air as well. All right. Key points to take away from this article is that the lawsuit alleges Norfolk's cleanup efforts made it worse. The governor of Ohio promised to hold Norfolk Southern feet to the fire. Norfolk Southern is the transportation service that was handling the transport of those hazardous chemicals. Not Americans, y'all. Animals had end up passing away as ecological disaster unfolds. The map shows area affected by a toxic spill, and then watch the devastating aftermath of the Ohio derailment, revealing a shocking drone footage. Okay, so and I wanted to touch base on something else that was in this article that I read earlier as well, that I feel like it is very important. Let me see here. I'm not sure. Because this is kind of repetitive. Okay, so within this paragraph here, the complaint goes to allege that rather than engaging in safer and more prudent and more costly efforts to properly contain and clean up the spill, Norfolk Southern chose to cheaper, less containment method, setting the spilled chemicals on fire, creating a 1 million pound plus chemical burn pit, and releasing the phosgene gas into the air. Phosgene gas is a harsh chemical warfare agent that was banned under the Geneva Protocol. Okay, and I will touch base on the Geneva Protocol in just a minute. From the chemicals that cause nausea and vomiting to a substance responsible for a majority of the chemical warfare passings during World War I, the people of East Palestine and surrounding communities are facing unprecedented arrays of threats to their health, said Morgan & Morgan attorney Frank Petosa and Renee Rocha. While the lives impacted by this wholly preventable catastrophe may never be the same, we are committed to holding Norfolk Southern accountable for its actions and securing justice for those whose lives have been disrupted and remain in danger. The plaintiffs are seeking relief, including medical monitoring, injunctive and declaratory relief, punitive damages, and damages relating to injuries, emotional distress, loss of property value, and increased risk of future illnesses. Okay, so this was updated as of 4:30. All right, now going back to the 15th, let's see. As of Wednesday, the thousands of Ohio residents had to evacuate their homes after the train derailment. And since then, the air and water testing has been shown the air is safe to return. Again, was this measured hourly, every 4 hours, every 6 hours, or every day? That's what I want to know. However, these hazardous substances that were deliberately burned off to avoid an explosion, creating enormous plumes of black smoke toxins. Residents have reported skin and respiratory illnesses, and chemicals have seeped into water supplies and the earth. And again, weather plays into a factor on this one. I have not seen anything at all of them, especially the governor, announcing a state of emergency for this. Because once the state of emergency happens, that's when FEMA can step in and do their due diligence as along with the National Transportation Safety Board and the EPA. OSHA. I haven't heard anything from OSHA yet. I don't see any, and I'm pretty sure OSHA is going to touch base with the company and see what regulations that they violated as well, because this is an OSHA incident. This is considered an OSHA incident, and I know they're like very busy as of right now because of all the other derailments that's happened that I had listed earlier before we had gotten to these articles. Also, the town had a town hall meeting as well at a high school gym. And what I got from this segment here when I read it earlier is that the Norfolk Southern officials declined to attend the meeting because they feared violence was going to unfold because of the anger and frustration that their company has caused the local residents. I also let me scroll back up here too, that again the company chose to go the shortcut route and do what is necessary to get the train service back online, just so the shareholders can stay happy, instead of just taking the risk and doing what is right for the betterment of the environment and ethically for their company, as well as for the residents that lives in these areas where these hazardous chemicals are being transported back and forth to. I mean, the least that they could have done is have the common decency and the common courtesy to right their wrongs, because I've also read that there has been plenty of incidents that happened before this incident has happened, which I'll be showing that to you all as well. Also, let's see, there was talks of Pete Buttigieg blaming the Trump administration for the Ohio derailment. I'm gonna read y'all this as well. The Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg partly blames the Trump administration for a recent train derailment that carried toxic chemicals in Ohio. Mr. Buttigieg claimed that the Department of Transportation had made significant investments in rail safety, but their efforts were hindered by the Trump administration decision to withdraw a proposed rule in 2018 that would have required trains to carry dangerous chemicals to use electrically controlled pneumatic ECP brakes. What I'm getting from that was if something was to happen, that it could be that the brakes would have been electronically controlled to prevent the incident from happening. That's what I'm getting from that. But according to Buttigieg, it was withdrawn in 2018. So Mr. Buttigieg tweeted that his agency has been working diligently to improve rail safety, but was constrained by law in certain areas of rail regulation, including breaking rule withdrawal by the Trump administration in 2018. In the wake of the East Palestine derailment, its impact on hundreds of residents, we're seeing lots of newfound or renewed and welcome interest in our work on rail safety. So I wanted to share more about what we've been doing in this area, Mr. Buttigieg tweeted. But we're constrained by law on some areas of the rail regulation, like the braking rule withdrawn by the Trump administration in 2018 because of a law passed by Congress in 2015. In 2015, Obama was still in office because Trump didn't get into office until 2016. But okay, let's keep going. But we're using the powers we do to keep people safe. he added. And of course, I'm always ready to work with Congress on furthering, or in some cases, restoring our capacity to address the rail safeties. Okay, so that's what Pete Buttigieg was touching bases on that. And since he did that release, it has been getting real nuts. Like the ego trip has been on an all-time high, because you got some officials like Mark Rubio wanting him to be fired, meaning Pete Buttigieg to be fired because of his handling in the situations and the infrastructure that is like is falling apart. Also, it from this article, it says the train did not break down for the first time, employee says. So there has been whistleblowers from employees of the company that derailed in Ohio earlier this month, had experienced problems earlier and had concerns around its size, an employee has said. As reported by CBS News, quoting an unnamed staff member said broke down at least once before the derailment in East Palestine, Ohio. The employees were also quoted saying that there were concerns among those working on the train over what they believe was the train's excessive length and weight. 151 cars, 9,300 feet long, 18,000 tons before it reached the East Palestine, which contribute to both the initial breakdown and the derailment. We shouldn't be running trains that are 150 cars length long, one of the employees told CBS News. There should be some limitations to the weight and the length of the trains. In this case, the train had not been 18,000 tons. It's very likely the effects of the derailment could have been mitigated. So is there a specific limitation rule or a regulation in regards to the weight and the length of how trains transport stuff back and forth? That's an interesting question that I also have for that. Also, to add into the derailment saga is Arizona Interstate reopens after a dangerous crash leak. So from the main freeway in southern Arizona reopening in both directions in a few hours ago, the official says people living southeast of the town Tucson could return home a day after the dangerous crash sent accrued fumes into the desert sky and prompt evacuation. The public may resume normal activities, Arizona Department of Public Safety said in a statement last night. Less than 3.2 kilometers of Interstate 10 had been closed in both directions for more than a full day after the truck tractor pulling a box trailer crashed Tuesday afternoon. Residents within a half a mile of the crash initially were told to leave, and those within 1.6 kilometers were told to shelter in place after liquid nitric acid was determined to be leaking from the wreckage. The shelter in place order was extended for a time to 4.8 kilometers, but it was lifted altogether by night. Before that, the area residents were told to turn off heaters, air conditioning systems that bring in outside air. The officials has been dealing with the Arizona hazardous crash as Ohio residents continue to raise concerns about the release of toxic chemicals on a board a freight train that derailed and left 50 cars in a fiery, mangled mess. So what is going on here? Okay, what is going on? So this is what I'm saying here. Let's see. DC blame game begins over the Ohio derailment. And I just feel like at this moment, there is no time to be throwing the blame game on who did what and who has felt did to do what. I do feel like the governor needs to call a state of emergency so FEMA can come on in and work with the residents the best way they can. Also, I feel like Pete Buttigieg need to make his way down there if he hasn't done so already to see what is going on and how can he assist on that matter. Far as the company, it's not looking too good for you all because there has been let me give y'all this article here. This is gonna be a long video, but I'm here to break it all down for you all. So it says here in this New York Post article, toxic train broke down 2 days before the Ohio derailment. Had too much weight, workers said. And it reads, Norfolk Southern freight train transporting toxic chemicals when it derailed in Ohio earlier this month had already broken down once in its route as workers expressed concern about the train size. The train broke down at least once when it departed from Madison, Illinois on February 1st. Okay, there was your warning sign there. And when it derailed on February 3rd, employees familiar with the matter told CBS News. Employees said the train's massive length and weight likely contribute to its initial breakdown. The train totaled to 151 cars, which is a lot of cars, equating to about 9,300 feet in length and weighed 18,000 tons, which is much larger than employees said it was safe. So it sounds like they was trying to haul all this out. They was trying to do one big old haul to save time and money, I'm assuming. Norfolk Southern CEO Alan Shaw declined an interview with CBS, but a company spokesman said the weight distribution of this train was uniform throughout. That's another that's another question I would like to ask too, is who inspected the plane, who inspected the train and the cars before they left? Okay, who gave the clearance for the train to take off, knowing that there was an incident that happened 2 days prior, and that the weight and the length and possibly the order of the cars played a factor to it? Okay. Still, the train was considered very long, according to Sarah Feinberg, who was administrator of the Federal Railroad Administration from 2015 through 2017. When I was FRA administrator, I was not happy with the lengths of the train, and they were 80 or 90 cars long, Feinberg said. This train was 50% longer. While efficient for railroad companies, the longer trains pose greater challenges for railroad crews who are already overworked and exhausted, an employee told the outlet. Wow. So not only y'all doing one big shipment at one time, but y'all overworking y'all workers too, and y'all trying to keep the shareholders happy. Wow. Also, it says the initial derailment caused a massive fire, releasing a large cloud of black smoke. The train was carrying hazardous material, including vinyl chloride, butyl acrylic. I'm not even finna pronounce all these chemicals because, you know, it's about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chemicals. Okay, dangerous chemicals. The main chemical burned was vinyl chloride, an ingredient used to produce plastics, and PVC, aka piping, which has been, shown to cause cancer at high levels of exposure. The incident forced hundreds of residents to evacuate from the vicinity of the crash so the authorities could conduct a controlled burn of the train cars and chemicals in order to prevent an explosion. After running tests on air and water, local authorities last week gave residents the green light to return homes, and y'all really shouldn't have. But many residents remain skeptical, some citing a burning sensation in their eyes, animals falling sick, and strong chemical odor looming over the town. And I'm pretty sure it's because of the weather affecting that as well. Other than that concludes that article, but I agree with some of these comments down here. Why was there no state of emergency, no help for displaced? Where is FEMA? Where is EPA? Those bright idea was to burn the chemical instead of cleaning it up. It's really getting out of control. We already had previous derailments besides this Ohio derailment. The infrastructure is falling apart. Okay, because it's reached its capacity to withstand what it is now. Okay, along with the climate is changing. All right, but when it comes to this derailment, like I said, I have a lot of questions. Were y'all measuring the air quality and the water quality hourly, or every 4 hours, every 6 hours, every day? Like, what was the measurement? What was the quality assurance with that? Also, another question is, were there, because I heard this during the little press conference too, because the EPA folks was like, trust the government. Well, right now we waiting on the governor to, well, the Ohio residents are waiting for the governor to call for a state of emergency, so the government can the other part of the government can assist with, helping with the displacement of the residents. Because in my opinion, if the air quality and the water quality is not going to get any better, it may result into an abandoned town, because it right now is not safe to be living there at all, especially if there is still chemical residue of the fumes still being present there. Okay. Also, Pete Buttigieg, Secretary Buttigieg, hopefully he has made it his way down there to see what is going on. Hopefully the president will make his way down there, okay, to see the assessment. The PPE should have been distributed as well, because really they should have anybody who goes to the town should have had PPE, like the hazardous suit anyway case, because of how dangerous that chemical is. Like some N95 mask or the little respirator, the mask, so the air could be filtrated so they can breathe. Also, what else? Oh yeah, now is not the time to do a blame game here. Blaming the Trump administration, blaming the Obama administration, blaming Biden. Now is not the time to be doing that. Well, what I'm focused is how can we move forward? Okay, how can we prevent these things from happening again? One is to address the problem. Stop taking the shortcut out, especially when it's dealing with these type of chemicals. You can't do no shortcuts with chemicals. Okay, you cannot, as a company, you cannot take shortcuts when it comes to hazardous chemicals. That's a big no. Okay, just go ahead and bite the costly. It's going to hit the pockets now. It's going to hit the company pockets, but at least it is handled safely to where people can still go and return back to home, other than being displaced and having to find somewhere else to go. All right. So, hopefully OSHA has made its way down there as well. And like I said, I'm pretty sure they're busy, because there's also been derailments that happened before and after the Ohio derailment. But hopefully they'll make their presence known and figure out what regulations that the company has violated and what they can do to assist with the residents there. But the EPA, hopefully, even though they say trust the government, like, at this point, it's like, what have you done for me lately type of thing. But at the end of the day, is all the focus needs to be, how can we move forward? How can we resolve this? So feel free to leave your comments down below in the comment section what you all think about this derailment, and what does Congress need to do to handle this situation? What does the governor need to do? What do these other agencies need to do about this situation? Are you affected by what has happened in the whole Ohio area, or wherever other derailments have taken place at, or whether it's Florida, Arizona, Texas, Ohio? The list goes on and on. But with that being said, be sure to like the video if you haven't done so already. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't done so already. Hit that notification bell so you know the next time I upload a video. And I'll see you guys in the next one.